Hello my friends, my name is Ryan Freeman. Welcome to my update on my life in Taiwan. This is going to be the first update. It has been 18 days since I have arrived in Taiwan, and as you probably have heard, it was a scooter that buzzed past my apartment. That is because I live in the city of Taoyuan, and I believe in most cities in Taiwan, motor scooters are ubiquitous. Unlike when I lived in China, the electric scooter was very popular. Here in Taiwan, the motor scooter is very popular way of getting around because, people are on the go here and parking spaces are at a premium. So scooters just seem to be the most convenient way to get around. In any case, I have been in Taiwan for 18 days and I wanted to just let you guys know how I was doing and also just sort of, decompress a lot of my experiences. This video is just going to be me talking. In future videos, I'm going to do an apartment tour. I will do all these little cool things like walking the streets. Taking out the trash is a little adventure. There's a lot of very interesting things whenever you travel, and then especially when you live in another country, you get a deeper insight into the style of life of another culture. And I have found that it has been a very fascinating, interesting, sometimes difficult, but on the whole, very smooth start to my life in Taiwan, and particularly in Taoyuan City in the northwest near Taipei. So, I'm sure you guys might have been aware from my last video that I was staying in a quarantine hotel. I stayed there for about a week. And during my last few days, I was allowed to leave my apartment to leave my quarantine hotel / apartment, that luxury prison, and look for my own apartment. That was a challenge. It's a challenge if you're doing it by yourself. So there's a lot of noise. I don't know how this video is going to turn out. I may scrap it. I may go with it. So I apologize. Maybe I'll just close this window and suffer with a little more heat and a little less noise. I do have air conditioners in this apartment, 2 air conditioners. But I figured the street noise would be more appropriate than air conditioner. Okay, back to the video. So, like I said, I had to find an apartment very quickly. I had like 3 to 4 days to find an apartment before I was going to start work. Now, I could have extended that and stayed at a hotel, but as you know, startup costs, whenever you move to another city, and this is moving to another country, I've got to pay visa costs and all of this. I just wanted to get into an apartment as soon as possible. Now, the unfortunate thing is I found some apartments that I really liked, but they refused to rent to me because I was not Taiwanese. So I don't know if you consider that racism or discrimination or perhaps good business practice, because apparently the reason that a lot of landlords won't do that is that they've been burned by foreigners in the past. In any case, it's kind of disheartening to find an apartment that you actually like after, hard walking around the city, talking to real estate agents, spending hours online looking at apartments, to only find out that because you were not born in this country, even though you're now a legal resident, you're not able to rent that apartment. Something I don't know. I guess you deal with that all over the world, but I guess this is going to be a little tangent. But see, now I'm already getting hot because I closed that damn window. Did I mention the weather in Taiwan? It's not super hot, but there is a high humidity. So I think the weather's mostly been in the 80s, but with a really high humidity, so you can sweat pretty quickly here. The sun is also fairly intense when it does come out. Today is a bit of a overcast day. The tangent that I was going to go on is that we're always so down on ourselves in America about racism, and sure, there's racism in America, a lot of it, issues to work out. But when you travel the world, there's a lot of countries that are just like, they're a lot more a lot more clear about their discrimination than we are in the West. It's a lot more widespread. But I do not feel treated badly. In fact, I feel that other than unable to rent some apartments, I feel like the Taiwanese are very friendly, very helpful people. People are friendly all over the world. That's the great part of traveling. But there are some countries where people are just seem to go out of their way to help you. There are some countries where people can be a little ruder, generally in more populated areas. There are countries like Japan where people are very polite. You know, every culture, although we're all humans and we're all generally pretty good and kind to travelers and strangers. Not all of us, but for the most part, the Taiwanese have been very helpful. Whenever I've needed any service in any of the stores, just picking up small home goods for my apartment or trying to decide between this item or that item, I mean, the customer service is fantastic. Even though they don't speak any English and my Chinese is fairly poor, they will just work hard, get up on the top shelf, and I mean, they'll just go out of their way to help you. And the English level in general is higher than what I experienced when I lived in China 10 years ago, 12 years ago perhaps. Yeah, much higher. And they're a little shy, but not so shy. They're very friendly. Chinese culture in China is very friendly, and I think that is true about Taiwan as well. They're very friendly. Japanese culture is very polite, but they're a little shy. Taiwanese culture is also polite in terms of lining up in lines and respecting other people. But walking in the streets, scooters will literally swerve really close to your person. I mean, it's feels like death is, you're just inches away from getting swiped by a scooter all the time. I'm going to do a video specifically about walking in the streets because it's an adventure. I feel like I'm in Frogger. I'm in that video game where you're crossing the road and you're trying not to get hit. And there's a certain tension, but it's what funny enough is just like with dogs, you don't want to tense up with dogs because like the more you tense up, the more afraid you are, the more the dog's going to bite you. Same thing when you cross the street. You don't want to tense up. You want to just kind of flow confidently through and trust that everything's going to work out. I'm a proponent and a fan of the great Chinese philosophical system, ancient philosophical system of Taoism, kind of going with the flow. You sort of have to go with the flow in this country because there are dangers. Particularly in the road. Taoyuan city itself is not considered to be a beautiful city by a lot of foreigners, but so far I have enjoyed everywhere I've been. It's an adventure here. Maybe perhaps when the novelty wears off, maybe I'll change my opinion, but so far it's been great. Oh yeah, so when I was looking, sorry, this is going to be all over the place. When I was looking for my apartment, I had found one that would rent to a foreigner. It was a good price, and it was like I had very specific requirements. I wanted a big desk where I could put just a decent sized desk where I can put my computer, and I brought my monitor. I wanted so that I could do some work. I wanted it to be near a window, and I would find apartments, and I could never, because Taiwan is such a densely populated country, you'll find apartments that are good in almost every aspect, but they just don't have the room for another desk, or a lot of the apartments that I was looking at were furnished because I don't really feel like buying a bed and couches and TVs and all that, and it's a pretty normal thing to rent a furnished apartment here. It was always one thing missing from all the apartments, and or the desk was too cramped, or the ceiling was too low. or there was no Wi-Fi. And I found one apartment that had almost everything that I liked, but it was just covered in mold. The landlord wasn't going to clean, so I was desperate. I almost made the decision to get it, and I was just going to pay like a cleaning service to clean it. But luckily, my coordinator, Maggie, who has helped me out so much, had a calm head and said, "Don't get this apartment, Ryan. Like, if the landlord is showing this apartment in this condition, what's going to happen in the future when you really need his help or her help?" So, desperation is never a good idea to make a decision. But, sometimes I get this way. I don't know if you do as well, where I just want to make something happen quickly. I was worried about starting work and then having both the idea of adjusting to work and all that entailed, as well as continuing to hunt down apartments. I wanted to be able to give my full energy to this new job, as well as setting up shop. But as fate would have it, like the night before I started work, one of my soon-to-be coworkers knew that I was in need, had a friend who was just going to rent out an apartment, came here to check it out. It was not the location that I was looking in specifically, but it was the perfect layout. Big living room, big bedroom, good price, huge balcony. I wanted a big open balcony. Great price. 15,000. I'll go into my apartment when I do the apartment tour, which is coming up soon, folks. Just want to clean it and I still need to get some essentials like bedspreads and stuff like that. And the price was fantastic. I'll talk all about that, which includes all sorts of stuff like cable TV. I've got HBO, includes water, all of this stuff. So lots of good things have been happening. When you go on a trip, and then especially when you move countries, there's all these things that you can worry about. But I will say that fate, universe, has been very good to me. Work. Let's talk about work. So I hadn't taught English in a long time, and I hadn't taught in a middle school in a long time, so I didn't really know, and I hadn't worked in an office in a long time, so I didn't really know what to expect. Well, I got bombarded by all of these Taiwanese coworkers coming at me. Hi Ryan, you're going to be my co-teacher on Monday and Friday at this time. Here's a class list. Would you like a microphone? Like, all of these very friendly coworkers, like, just coming up to me and meeting me, and directors and stuff like that, telling me that I'm going to have to dance at a carnival, and there's just like all sorts of information. Here's a USB, here's this, you got to make a PPT for this day. I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into? But they didn't make me teach my first day, so my schedule is Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And I get a lot of office hours during that time where I don't have to really do much. So I was a little bombarded the first day, and I thought it was going to be pretty intense, because I saw that. So initially, all right, so I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but I'll get back. Before I accepted this job, some schools will work you to the bone. And when I talked to my recruiter, he said, Ryan, the contract says a maximum of 22 classes, but generally teachers only get 16 to 18, yada, 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 boring stuff, right? I ended up getting the maximum of 22 classes, which all teachers have got 22 classes. The Taiwanese teachers even have more, so I shouldn't complain. And a lot of my classes are bilingual. 12 out of the 22 are bilingual, where I'm working with a Taiwanese teacher. And she doesn't speak much English. She's an OG, she's a veteran, and she's been teaching this course for decades, and she's like, this is how it's gonna be, ba, ba, ba. She's like a tough woman, very interesting woman. Her name is Sally. Maybe I'd like to introduce her to you in a future video. Because the first day I was like, oh shit, this is who I'm gonna be teaching more than half my classes with. She wants to control everything, the book's in Chinese, she wants me to read, and it's like, I'm teaching anatomy, about body systems like the urinary system, the the skeletal, muscular, respiratory, all of these things where, I never really got a hold of our anatomy and biological system really well. So I'm going to have to learn all that, and the book's in Chinese, and my teacher can't really even talk to me, and all the PPTs are in Chinese, and so I'm just like, what the fuck? And then my other classes, I've got 9 classes that are English classes with 8th graders, where I'm kind of in the driver's seat, and I can teach almost anything I like. And then I have 1 class where I teach teachers. So anyways, back to that 12 classes of teaching health and physical education to 7th graders with Taiwanese teacher Sally. If I called the Taiwanese people Chinese, I'm not doing this. I'm not trying to be insensitive. It's just they speak Chinese. The name official name of Taiwan, I believe, is like Republic of China or something like that. So I mean, and they have the Chinese history. So Taiwanese, I'm not trying to conflate. This is not a political thing at all. And forgive me if I've offended you. My Taiwanese teacher, but you really do feel that, because I've lived in China, and I've traveled to China before I lived there and after I lived there, and the culture is very similar between Taiwanese and mainland China. It's also very different, but it's very similar. And Sally really feels very Chinese to me, but she's Taiwanese. And she was sort of bossy that first meeting, and I'm like, what am I going to get myself into? But as it turns out, she's basically the best co-teacher I could have asked for, because she does almost all the work, all the planning, and just sets me up for the slam dunks. Like, she's like the workhorse of our dynamic duo, and then sets me up for like the last 15 minutes of class where I just run up and just slam dunk, get all the students excited. I mean, it makes my week so much easier to have Sally, and now we're really good friends, and she signed up for the class that I'm teaching to the teachers, and she's hilarious. She's so funny. That class with the teachers, I've only done 1 class, and unfortunately it's on Mondays, and this Monday is a public holiday, so I won't have them. That is wonderful. I literally just sit down with the various teachers at my middle school, and we just talk freely, and they're so willing to talk. While they're in the hallways, there's a feeling of tension, a feeling of like, they're very hard workers. Let me say this about my Taiwanese coworkers. They are hard workers. And I would say this about Taiwanese in general. Even when you go to the restaurants, they are working hard and fast. There's kind of a pace that's a little faster than what you're used to, especially compared to Southern California, where everyone's a little slow and a little lackadaisical. They're busting their asses here, whatever they're doing. And so there's a little bit of tension. But in that teacher, where I'm teaching the other teachers, they're just so happy to be able to speak English. They're so friendly. And that's what I found, is sometimes you look at this person, even if it's outside of the school, they're moving fast. They don't look necessarily friendly, but as soon as you engage with them, they're very sweet, very helpful. Yeah, so everything's been cool. It's even though I got 22 classes, and they're 45-minute classes, so out of my 40-hour work week, I don't have a lot of work. So I have a lot of downtime just sitting at my desk. So sometimes I just kick my feet up and listen to Louis Armstrong, or I'm like, researching things that I need for my life here in Taiwan. And soon I hope to really turn that time into more productivity towards my creative endeavors. In fact, one of the reasons I kind of wanted to build this life here in Taiwan is I wanted a place that was comfortable to live, where I didn't have to kill myself to make my bread and have a comfortable lifestyle. Also to be near my girls if my wife decides that I should be so lucky to see them. By the way, I sent her a package that arrived about a week ago. She got it. We actually communicated a little bit. She's having a banking issue she needs my help to solve, so I'll be the hero if that possibly can get me any closer to my kids. But yeah, I want to be as productive as possible. Also wanted specifically to live in another country because I find that sort of churns your mind with all the new impressions, that sort of allows you to step outside of the box that you were previously in. Also, living in another country, because I'm not consuming so much American media, I mean, I'm watching YouTube, but I'm not around. You'd be surprised by just hopping to another pool of water or another country, you know, the metaphor of like a fish going to another pool of water. It's just so different. Like, I'm not bombarded with all this political shit that was permeating. Even when I try to avoid it, it would just come up in conversation, or you could feel it, you know. I miss America, of course, you know, to some degree, but it's nice to be an expat in another country. Like when I lived in Asia before, I didn't know what Obama's presidency was like because I was out of the country for the whole time. So, if you're sick of American politics or the pressure of trying to fit certain type of thinking, traveling sort of unburdens yourself. Of course, you are influenced by the Taiwanese way of life, but because you're an outsider, you kind of swim into it, but you're never really in it, you know. And they respect your differences to a very large degree. Little drama with one of my coworkers. Okay, I little drama with one of my coworkers. I have 3 other foreign teachers that share an office with me. They are all young, short, Rubenesque South African women, dark-skinned. And they're very quiet, very sweet, and I've tried to befriend them as much as possible. I like them, and very interesting. I'm listening to Taiwanese speak Chinese, and then I'm listening to these 3 South African girls communicate in a variety of African languages. They have these different languages that they talk to each other with. And, you know, and I'm trying to be friendly, we're doing things together, we're practicing for this dance, for this carnival. And one of them started a conversation kind of in the office in general. We heard a fighter jet fly over. I won't go into the whole thing, but I started to make a joke. And I started to say, maybe it's a Taiwanese fighter jet to protect us from the dirty, and I'm not going to say it because I'll probably step on toes. I was going to say the dirty, and I was going to say another country. I stopped myself, even though I believe with humor you should be a little free. I love this culture. I don't consider myself a racist person. You know, obviously, I do have opinions that might not be always politically correct. I was going to say the dirty, and then I stopped myself realizing, like, Ryan, your sense of humor might not be everybody's sense of humor, so don't say it. But I was obviously making a joke. I stopped myself after saying the word dirty. Well, one of my South African coworkers, this young girl, she said, "That's racist. You should keep your mouth quiet." She didn't say it directly to me, but I could hear her. So I caught her outside the hallway. I said, "What's going on? What are you calling me racist?" And she said, "Because you said you were about to say dirty Africans." I said, "No, I wasn't. I was going to say dirty this other country," which actually makes sense, which actually doesn't make sense that the Taiwanese jet's protecting us for dirty Africans. Anyways, she filled in the blank. I left it blank because I didn't want to say any joke. And it was a somewhat, derogatory joke because I was going to name an ethnic group. I won't say it. I think you could probably guess which one. But it's an ethnic group that I love. It's an ethnic group that that is very near and dear to my heart. I was only saying it because there's a little tension militarily. And I was saying it for the benefit of my Taiwanese coworker. And humor is dark, to some degree. And I didn't mean it with any malicious intent at all. And I stopped myself before saying it, realizing it, But because I stopped it and I didn't finish it, she filled it. She finished it for me in her own mind. And according to her, I was going to say Africans because I'm racist and I hate brown-skinned people. So that was drama. That happened yesterday. So I was a little upset about that. I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess the smart thing is to keep your head down, don't make any jokes. But I'm not that type of guy, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Anyways, they filmed me. They are making a video. They made a video about the bilingual programs, and they used me as an actor, as a dumb lost tourist who asked one of the students for directions. And I'll put a link to that video if you're curious. This is not a great example of how great of an actor I am. I just sort of had fun with it and cheesed it up. So if you want to watch that, you can click on it. They're gonna show that to like every teacher in the city and everyone in education. They're gonna have this massive conference and everyone's gonna see it. So yeah, there's been a lot of, I've also got a couple part-time jobs, pretty, not lucrative, but pays well, teaching. I taught kids online, which I would never do again, not because the kids aren't sweet, not because it's not an easy gig, but there's something about teaching in the classroom, which I freaking love. I cannot believe it's taken me this long to get back into the classroom, like properly teaching. It is so much fun. I remember why I got into it, why it was the first job that I actually fell in love with. But teaching online, it's hard to get that energy. I feel like I'm spending it and I'm not getting it back. Whereas in the classroom, there's just this beautiful reciprocity between you and the students. But I also got a job teaching other teachers from around the district, which will start in a couple weeks. And started jiu-jitsu. I got my butt kicked the first day. I didn't get my butt kicked by everyone, but I got my butt kicked by their highest belt, another purple belt. Of course, I was rusty. I'm gonna make excuses now. I was rusty, nervous. It was a bad day for me. But I was deeply impressed with the level of skill of the teaching, level of skill of the students there. Really liked the gym, signed up for a membership, and went back 2 days later and represented my skill much better. Met another American guy who's been living here for 11 years. Really cool, so much fun. So excited about going to jiu-jitsu here now. And I'm going to Taipei tonight on a date with a stewardess, former stewardess who now trains stewardesses. So anyways, wish me luck. Going to the big city tonight, my friends. I will see you on the next update. I promise I will have video for that. Thank you very much. My name is Ryan in Taiwan. Bye-bye.